So if you would like to gain access to the recording, please just reach out to us. I'll have all of our contact info in the presentation as well as in some email follow-ups that will be going out tomorrow. For credit requests, any AIA reporting or certificate requests, there will be a survey that pops up at the end of the presentation or when you exit the webinar. So if you would like to enter your information there, that would be great so we can get the credit processed. Your other option, if that does not work for you, is to use a link in the follow-up email that's going to go out around noon Eastern time tomorrow. And then if all else fails, you can always reach out to us through our website or contact us at info@caragreen.com. So a little bit of background on CaraGreen. We are a distributor of healthy and sustainable building materials based out of Raleigh, North Carolina. And our mission is to find healthy materials and bring them to market. We really do this by identifying industry trends and issues and searching for solutions to those issues that we see arising. And then we are the go-to source for the latest topics and trends through our blogs and other educational channels. So please poke around on our website. Maybe another course we offer might interest you. We just want to be, a resource for you on a lot of these issues as they change throughout the next few years. So some learning objectives that we're going to cover today is we're going to learn what silica is and how it's used in our industry and outside our industry. We're going to understand the risk associated with crystalline silica specifically. We're going to discover healthier options and best practices for working with materials that contain crystalline silica. And then we're going to understand what role you can play in keeping the surfacing industry safe. So to start things off, we're going to talk about what silica is. It's silicone dioxide. So we have one silicone with two oxygen bound to it. And it's the second most abundant mineral in the Earth's crust. So about a quarter by weight of all minerals in the Earth. So there's really two types of silica here. We have crystalline silica and then non-crystalline silica or amorphous silica. You can see how these two types of silica differ in their atomic structure. So on the left here, you have amorphous. On the right, you have crystalline. So crystalline's a little sharper. That'll be more important as we move down the health impacts of crystalline silica specifically. So today we're going to focus a lot on crystalline silica as the title of the presentation mentions, but we would like to talk about where it's really found. Naturally, it's found in sand, sandstone, shale, slate, granite, and natural stone. Silica is really, mined from those resources for use in concrete, masonry, engineered stone, porcelains and ceramics, and fracking. So it's a widely used mineral across, a lot of different materials and industries, as you can see here. And when we look at what it really is at its base, there are three main crystalline varieties of silica. So one is quartz. That's the most abundant. That's what we use a lot of in our industry, especially for countertop surfacing. There's tridymite, which is a very rare volcanic form, and then cristobalite, which is another volcanic form of crystalline silica that's, again, very rare. So crystalline silica in the form of quartz is the kind that can be harmful to human health, and that's what we're going to talk a lot about today. The reasoning behind why we use so much crystalline silica is because it's chemically inert. It's very abundant. As we mentioned, it's, about a quarter of the makeup of the Earth's crust. It's temperature resistant, has a very high melting point, and it has a strong physical structure and is very hard wearing. So all the things we would want in a lot of our building materials. And then we can look at why it is dangerous as well. So, when you're cutting any material that has crystalline silica in it, if it's not under the most optimal wet cut conditions, these silica particles can be inhaled by anyone exposed to them. So when silica particles are inhaled, they effectively are slicing the lung tissue, and that's because of that crystalline structure of the silica particle. And over time, this is going to create a lot of scar tissue in the lungs, which, as we can all imagine, will make it difficult to breathe and can cause serious chronic and fatal lung conditions. Some of these conditions are called silicosis. It has a long onset and is a incurable condition. It has two different or three different types. So there's chronic, acute, which can just occur from one single exposure to crystalline silica, and then there's accelerated as well. So all of these, silicosis exposures are really going to make you more susceptible to lung disease, things like tuberculosis, lung cancer. You can see a list here, but there's many others that it'll predispose you to, encountering in your lifetime. So when we look at the impacts of respirable crystalline silica, we can see some X-rays here to show you some of the impacts to the lungs. So we have, a healthy lung here, very clear, and then advanced silicosis. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to read the X-ray to you, but there is lots of scar tissue in here, and you can see that white kind of cloudy look compared to the healthy lung. So down here we have sort of the cellular level of how these crystalline silica particles are impacting your lung cells. And really what's happening is it's creating these micro lesions in your lungs. It develops a fibrous tissue, and then eventually we have scarring of the lungs, which is, makes it harder for you to breathe and eventually results in different lung conditions that we mentioned on the last slide. So when we look at who's at risk of silicosis, we have quartz and stone fabricators are a large group that are impacted by this. We have workers in asphalt and cement manufacturing, anyone who's involved in crushing or drilling rock and concrete, demolition workers, of course, anyone who's doing sandblasting, masonry and concrete workers, mining and tunneling crews, and unfortunately, we're seeing this is disproportionately affecting Spanish-speaking Latino men, oftentimes because a lot of the warnings and disclosures around health impacts or directions on how to avoid the health impacts are not in English or not in Spanish. They're oftentimes only displayed in English, which is leading to a disproportionate effect on Latino men. So now we can move into the connection between quartz surfaces and crystalline silica a little bit more. We like to look at the history of surfacing overall. Back in the 70s, a lot of people were using laminate. We quickly moved into solid surface being the norm across the country, across the world. Then we moved more into the natural stone and granite era where people were looking for that hard, non-porous surface that was very durable and scratch resistant. And then we were with the further development of quartz, we saw that really take the largest market share in the 2010s and into present day. So engineered stone really emerged as a man-made alternative to mined stone like granite. Um, it was initially invented in 1963 and initially used limestone and resin. It was called agglomerated stone, then quartz, and Breton was the one who developed this process. They sold equipment to manufacturers all over the world who were using limestone, marble, and then eventually quartz is what we know today. As the desire for more aesthetics emerged, we saw, and mainly that being the marble veining, the size of the particles used became a lot smaller. So that's where we started to see more of this like granular crystalline silica being used in these surfaces. So when we look at what surfaces contain silica, I did see some of the responses from the survey. So some of you might be surprised by this data, but when we look at quartzite, that's almost 100% crystalline silica. Quartz itself is usually within the 90 to 93% crystalline silica. Granite, we're looking at 10 to 45%. Porcelain, 14 to 18%. Some of these natural stones can vary, but tend to be on the lower side, soapstone and slate and marble. And then sintered stone is 0 to 12% right now. and then phenolic composites at 0%. But we can really see those higher percentage definitely correlate to, a little bit more of the health impact, but any crystalline silica exposure is not safe to be, inhaling. So now we can kind of look at why quartz is the face of silica and silicosis, this crisis we're facing right now. Silica content is, the highest up to 90%, some a little bit above that. Really, this discovery of silicosis and the health impacts started in Australia. They found about 266 cases. Then in 2019, we identified 18 cases in the United States. Many more have been identified since then. Australia has been the leader in research and legislation, and more recently, they actually passed a ban on these surfaces. So anything with crystalline silica content of 0.1% or higher is no longer allowed in Australia after July 1st of 2024. LA County had a hearing recently on this topic and has implemented some measures to make sure that California-based fabricators are following the best practices to minimize the level of exposures in their shops. And then IKEA and Bunnings have removed quartz surfacing from their offering completely. And a lot of these, the bottom three bullet points has really happened within the past like 6 months to a year. So this is a very emerging topic, and things are changing very quickly. So we had kind of an industry unchecked until this point in time, or the past, 4 or 5 years, and manufacturers do have an obligation to ensure products are being used properly and safely. Fabricators, installers, and owners do have an obligation to ensure proper safety equipment is provided and is being used properly. And then OSHA has the obligation to police and audit the industry. So I would say, at this point in time, there are many manufacturers who are being great advocates to help fabricators and installers practice safely cutting these materials. And then OSHA has really developed a lot of resources for everyone to jump on the train and make sure we're all cutting these materials safely. So now where we really find ourselves is lots of news articles coming up about how countertop fabricators and manufacturing workers are facing uncurable lung diseases. We see it in the United States, a lot in Australia, even New Zealand here, but this isn't limited geographically. It's happening all over the world. It's just a matter of who's done the research to show what is happening in their population. And then in the United States, of course, we're a very litigious society. So if you do some searches, you will see some lawyers and legal groups out there asking people to file their silica claims. So this is, going to be a buzz more and more over this year of 2024. And we're really seeing, different parties suing each other, but workers and families of workers who are diagnosed with silicosis are suing mining companies and manufacturers. Because these diseases require expensive medical care, they reduce quality of life, have high mortality rates, and lead to other illnesses. They're keeping people from being able to work and earn enough money. So people are looking for, money to support their lifestyles and families elsewhere from a legal lawsuit. And we do really have the proper measures in place and available to protect our workers. So what really should have happened and should be happening in the future, we need written plans in multiple languages. These need to cover all the safety protocol that need to be taken when cutting these sorts of materials. We need regular air quality testing in our stone shops, medical examinations of workers before and throughout their time working at a specific company. We need an isolation of the dust area where the dust is being produced and where it's sitting. I also need some engineering controls, which is really just cutting with as much water as possible so the absolute minimum amount of silica dust is being created and being made airborne. We need our workers to be using PPE and respirators to protect their lungs. And then finally, just, educating everyone on this topic. That's why we're all on this webinar today, to learn about the issues and see what we can do. We just need to all do our part in educating everyone on the risk factors and how everyone can protect themselves. So you may be asking, is it too little, too late? Um, there's lots of cases that have not been diagnosed yet. There's lots of people who have probably passed away that maybe we didn't know what it was, what the lung disease was, but now we do know. Lots of cases that were misdiagnosed. And there could have been fatalities that were caused by silicosis that we didn't know at the time was silicosis. Are there going to be retroactive cases? And where does the money trail lead? So what now? We're seeing a lot of education from manufacturers. So you can see, some companies in these photos right here, and there's a lot of great manufacturers of quartz materials that are taking the high road, that are addressing this issue and talking about how they're going to either move away from crystalline silica or how they're going to protect the people cutting these materials with good practice guides and educating all of their customers on the best ways to cut their material to avoid health implications. And there's a lot of industry training as well. Different organizations in the industry are taking this on, educating fabricators. There's health organizations that are also offering training, but there's lots and lots of resources out there now. Just a quick Google search on, silicosis training, and you'll have plenty of results to get your team up to speed. And then there's some government funded education as well. So we have some from OSHA. This is a whole YouTube series on cutting materials with silica and, really the impacts. And there's a quick video. I'm going to show you just about a 3-minute portion of the video. If you would like to watch the whole thing, you can see the title here. I can also email any of these resources to you if you would like.
Mi nombre es Ever Ramón. Yo trabajé por 16 años en esa compañía. Pero en realidad el trabajo es muy bonito. A mí me gusta mucho el trabajo. Pero yo creo que uno como trabajador no se da cuenta que el trabajo así como es de bonito, así es de dañino también. Y eso nadie se lo explica a uno. Nadie. Porque primero estamos trabajando nomás con granite y mármol, que es natural, pero luego después al tiempo empezamos a trabajar con, que le llaman engineer stone, que trae pues mucha sílica, y yo estuve viendo una vez que un camión trajo y vi un sticker y me puse a leerlo, y allí vi que decía que era peligroso porque se podía alojar en los pulmones y era muy dañino. Después de cierto tiempo fue que yo tuve un accidente, me caí en el trabajo, me lesioné mi espalda, pero fui al hospital. Estando en eso, me vine para la casa y el siguiente día parece, yo estaba con mucha flema en mi garganta, en mi boca, mucha flema y mucha tos. Entonces yo fui al hospital y dije al doctor que quería ver por qué tenía tanta cosa de esa, y dijo, pues no sabemos, pero te voy a referir para hacer unos exámenes. El siguiente día yo estaba para hacer los exámenes de sangre y todo en el hospital cuando me llamó la enfermera y dijo que yo necesitaba ir de emergencia. Disculpe, está duro para mí. Porque yo sí me afligí mucho. Yo pensé que ya era pues muy corto mi tiempo. Sí, pero... Y después me dijo, lo que tiene es sílica. silicosis. Y yo le dije, ¿qué es silicosis? Es una cosa por lo que tú has estado absorbiendo mucho polvo en en tu trabajo. Y yo en ese momento decidí dejar el trabajo. A mí nadie me dijo que lo dejara, pero yo dije, pues yo voy a salvar mi vida. Nunca me imaginé que mi trabajo me fuera a dañar tanto.
Pues sí, me afectó mucho.
So I'm going to stop it there, but if you would, like to view the whole video or series, they are all available for you to view on YouTube. Okay, so when we're looking at different regulations around these issues, there have been some that have been put in place limiting the acceptable levels of exposure to silica dust. Clearly, this has not been enough. We've seen the California OSHA board just voted to fast track the development of new regulations. So I did touch on that a bit before, but we really need to make sure we're keeping workers from breathing in this dust when fabricating countertops. The LA County Board of Supervisors is even considering a ban on this type of countertop material. And we all know that California tends to lead the regulation across the country in terms of these sorts of issues. And then Australia has banned all engineered stone with anything greater than 0.1% of crystalline silica starting July 1st, 2024 will not be allowed in that country. So, what can be done at the material level? There's two options here. We can reduce crystalline silica content or we can eliminate crystalline silica content. And, this is looking at this issue from the point of view of the manufacturer, of the represented product reps or distributors, or basically any material supplier. So manufacturers really have to take some responsibility here and improve by reducing crystalline silica exposure through education, equipment, and reduction of content in their materials. The safest solution here is to reduce and ultimately eliminate crystalline silica from building materials. And this is not an impossible task. So there's already a bunch of lower crystalline silica alternatives out there on the market. These can be used in place of traditional quartz surfaces that may have a very high crystalline silica content. Some examples of this would be porcelains, ultra compact surfaces, reduced silica quartz. So there's even manufacturers out there that are able to pull the crystalline silica out of their quartz surfaces or substitute the crystalline silica with another material. So when we look at porcelains, very commonly used material here, performs pretty similarly to quartz and has a lot of the same benefits, but has a much lower silica content. Porcelain consists of clay, kaolin feldspar, sand, and colored pigments, and is made by compressing these minerals at a very high temperature. So it offers high resistance to impact, low maintenance, high density and low porosity, endless color options, especially with the printing technologies we've seen come out more recently. And it can be used for cladding, countertops, and flooring. So this one really, can replace a lot of those quartz specifications you may be creating. It is a very, very comparable material. We have ultra compact surfaces as well. These are made from minerals, but they're a bit different minerals than those in porcelains. Some of these contain glass, porcelain, even natural stone, engineered stone technology, but they are, a little bit more unique in terms of their performance, multiple thicknesses, and low to no silica content. So we can use these inside or outside. They're highly resistant to stains, scratches, and heat. They're very durable and low maintenance, and they are UV stable, so it can be used inside or outside for cladding, countertops, and flooring. When we look at quartz with reduced silica content, with everything we just reviewed in the first portion of this presentation, we've seen a lot of innovations emerge that are actually removing or reducing the crystalline silica content of quartz materials. So one manufacturer has even removed crystalline silica with a patented technology. They have different levels of silica available, and I'm sure you can, find that out on the market, but there's great innovations being made by a lot of manufacturers. So this is going to be an option for you as well. Just make sure you're checking, the quartz and see what their crystalline silica content is. And the major benefit of this is it can be used in the same way we're using quartz currently, and it's expected to perform exactly the same, just as well, maybe better. It doesn't require as much adjustment for our fabricators on learning new cutting techniques for different materials, especially if they're already working with quartz materials. So the benefits is it's a step up from standard quartz. That lower crystalline silica content is huge, and it can be used for interior cladding and countertops, just as you would use quartz now. We can also look at crystalline silica-free alternatives. So these products can be used in place of traditional quartz, and they have zero crystalline silica in them. So the first one we want to look at is recycled glass stone. This type of engineered or synthetic stone reuses glass from the waste stream and combines it with a resin to create a silica-free alternative. Glass is amorphous silica, so it's a safer version of silica, not the crystalline silica we've talked so much about, but very comparable in performance and applications for use. And some companies are dedicated to only creating recycled glass materials. Some are from post-industrial sources, some from local post-consumer waste streams, but it's a very similar aesthetic to quartz and engineered stone, but it has a much better story. So similar applications to other natural and engineered stone for these materials. It's just a more sustainable, more green option that is just as easy to work with as quartz and just as easy to take care of as well. And there's lots of fun color options beyond just your natural earth tones. Sintered stone is also a great silica-free option. It's made just from minerals. The mineral mixture has recently been adapted to completely exclude crystalline silica from its composition. Some minerals include kaolins, feldspars, and silicoaluminates. They're compacted into a non-porous stone-like surface using heat and pressure under vacuum. So there's no resins in here, which means it's a circular material. It can be recycled at the end of its life. There are fewer resources and less chemicals involved, of course. And sintered stones can be solid in color or have veining like other natural and other synthetic or engineered stones. So this is a great alternative here. And it's one of the most durable materials on the market. It's great for use inside and outside because it has no resins in it. It has an incredible heat, stain, and moisture resistance. It's suitable for cladding, pavement, kitchen countertops, anti-slip flooring, ventilated facades, pools, really anywhere you could think to put stone, it would perform just fine in. And they have many different finishes and anti-slip properties with unique textures. You can cover large areas without seams, and it's just a very versatile material that can be used in many different applications. Another crystalline silica-free material we can take a look at is recycled paper composite. There's a few US-based companies that manufacture surfacing material made out of recycled paper with resin. And these ingredients are all free of crystalline silica as well, and are free of many other harmful chemicals. These products offer a different aesthetic than a lot of quartz or natural stone materials, but they're warm to the touch and have more of a matte appearance like paper. So it's a very unique material. I encourage you to, check it out and poke around on the internet, see what you can find. But this is a great, great alternative. And may not sound like paper would be durable, but with the manufacturing process and the resin used, it's very, very durable. There's indoor material and outdoor rated material. It's a great countertop option, but it can even be used for wall paneling, tabletops, windowsills, retail displays, bathroom partitions. So definitely a versatile material as well. And it's very easy to work with. It's great for DIYers as well as professionals. And we oftentimes see stone fabricators and mill workers installing this material. And I think our final option here is resin-based solid surface. So solid surfaces are inherently free of crystalline silica. Uh, they are resin-based materials poured into slabs or sheets and have been used as an alternative to engineered stone for quite some time now. It generally includes an acrylic or polyester resin, pigment, and or acrylic fillers. Many even use recycled materials in them, and it's a durable and easy to maintain material, lightweight, and can be joined seamlessly, unlike any other stone material. It can be used for the same applications as quartz and engineered stone, but offer a lot more color options and customization options. And there's plenty of manufacturers in this space with tons and tons of variety, similar to kind of the quartz marketplace. You can pretty much find any color you would need in the solid surface space. So just a discussion question if you guys would like to post in the Q&A, but if there's any other new or innovative products you've seen out there, we would love to know about them, even if you just shot us an email. We really want to be experts in this space for you all as we go through this industry transition. But a summary on the presentation here is silica and silicosis are not going anywhere. Manufacturers really need to step up and take measures to protect their fabricators to create better and healthier materials. There is never going to be a perfect material, and there is not a perfect material right now, but everyone can take measures to improve the health and safety of others. We can see here what's happening now is the isolation of the issues and the dangerous materials, education around it, and protection. And in the future, we're hoping to see some substitution of these dangerous materials. So just to recap this one more time, if anyone joined midway through the presentation, for any AIA reporting or certificate requests, there will be a form that pops up when you close out of the webinar, and you can throw all your info in there and we will get the credits reported or certificate sent out or both. Other option, we will be sending a follow-up email tomorrow around noon Eastern time that will have the same survey so that you can get us your info for credit requests. So just a little more from CaraGreen. We're going to continue to update this presentation as more information becomes available. We will do additional sessions of this webinar as we go throughout the year. But as more information becomes available, we want to be your resource for sustainable and healthy material options. A few helpful links for you all. Instagram handle is on there. Our blog web pages on here, which we post a lot about these sorts of topics, along with a lot of other industry topics. There's a silica-free surfacing landing page there, and then our LinkedIn as well. So, please stay in contact. Please utilize our resources that are available. So here's our email if you need to hop off and you wanted to send some comments and feedback, but I'll leave this slide up here and we can touch on the Q&A a bit. So I see one that is there a technical document we can reference in our specifications that gives safety requirements for manufacturers and fabricators? One document I would say that would be a really good one to have would be the HPD so that you can see the contents of different materials within that surfacing option. Certain brands have provided different resources on, how to cut their material safely. So I would refer to their own brand websites. Next one is, can quartz be manufactured with silica content that is below the harmful threshold, or is the best response to stop specifying quartz altogether? Quartz, as I mentioned, there are a couple brands out there that are reducing the crystalline silica content. Sorry, I lost the question, but they are reducing the silica content. I wouldn't guarantee, and I'm not going to make this claim to all of you, but I wouldn't guarantee that any content of crystalline silica is safe to be around. I would not want to personally be around it, but the lower, I think the safer it is, the lower the content, the safer it is. Um, I hope that helps answer your question. Is the resin used shifting the health issue from silica dust to health issues with plastics? We have seen some articles start to come out about some health issues with plastics, especially after this initial, health issue with crystalline silica arose. So, hopefully over time we will start to see a more healthy, landscape across the industry as a whole. I have a question in here that says, what does the crystalline silica do for quartz surface? How come reducing it doesn't affect performance? Um, they are reducing the crystalline silica content, but it's likely being replaced with another safer substance. Sometimes that's glass. Um, but it's really providing that structural integrity and chemical or heat resistance and all of that sort of stuff we talked about in the beginning of the presentation that talks about why it's so popularly used in these materials. I have another question around the health concerns of cutting resin components of quartz alternatives. Unfortunately, I don't have data on this at this time. We will, dive into it, maybe publish a blog post on it since it's been brought up a couple times in this question section. But we did see one article come up about some plastics after the initial ban in Australia. So we'll keep an eye on it and keep you guys posted on different trends as they arise about any health implications with cutting resin components. Someone's asking about cost. I am happy to provide any material costs of CaraGreen specific materials, but cannot give general pricing on the categories discussed today. If you'd like to email us, we'd be happy to have that conversation with you directly. I have a question about porcelain countertops being detailed the same or similarly as sintered stone countertops. I would say, in my opinion, yes. I'm not an expert on porcelain, but the only thing I would say would be different is some sintered stone is through body, and most porcelain is just going to be printed on top if there's any sort of natural stone appearance. So, main difference would just be like having a blank edge or a mitered edge present for the porcelain, where sintered stone, you may or may not have to miter, or you can leave an exposed edge for those through body options. Another question about when looking for the silica content in a product, are we just looking for the amount of quartz? I would look for the amount of crystalline silica on the health product declaration. That's going to be the best place that you can find that specific notation. Um, quartz is kind of more of a general, all-encapsulating term, and I would say the crystalline silica is really the material you want to be looking for. Another one on here is, does solid surface have silica? And I feel like a lot of people use the word solid surface differently, but if we're talking about the resin-based plastic solid surfaces, I would say as a general answer, no. Most of them are just, incorporating plastic materials, which would not have any crystalline silica. Someone is asking about, is there health hazards to humans once the materials are installed? And there is not. So unless the only times that are really, impacting human health is when there is the dust present. So once the material is installed, you're not really going to see that occurring. I would say, it's only really happening in the cutting and fabrication portion, as well as the manufacturing and mining processes. I have someone asking about Lapitech brand specifically, saying they are the only one with the CE marking, making it the only sintered stone, asking if there's other brands with that certification. There is not. That's why we discussed ultra compact surfaces separate from sintered stone specifically. Someone's asking about IDCEC credit. Unfortunately, we do not have that right now, but we're happy to send you a certificate if you'd like to self-report. Someone else asking about the slide showing silica content in natural stone. Happy to send this recording out to you or the slide itself. If you just reach out via email, we can send that along. And I'm happy to share the survey results as well. Someone asked about if you would like to contact us, we'll send that over. I'm just scanning through a few more questions here if you want to bear with me. How do these other options price compared to quartz? Quartz can be a very, very big price range. I would say most or all of these fall sort of in the mid-range area of a quartz material. But again, depends totally on the brand. So if you wanted to reach out to CaraGreen about our brands directly, we're happy to discuss with you one-on-one. A question about declare labels. That's something we're working on getting for a lot of our materials at CaraGreen. Not all have them at this point, but it's definitely an initiative of ours to keep pursuing those. Someone asking about sample specification language from manufacturers outlining dust abatement plans. I personally have not really dug into that so much. I would say there's, in my mind, a few brands out there that probably do have a good example of this. I would recommend honestly going to look at Cosentino's website. They've really taken this issue on in a strong way. Someone asking how helpful PPE protocols are against silicosis. Um, if they're practiced in the right way, it can be very helpful if you're wearing the respirator when you're supposed to. I think the reality is unfortunately this has not been practiced in the past. So, regulation may just move in the direction to move away from the materials entirely, like Australia did. Another pricing question, feel free to contact us, info@caragreen.com. Sorry, just scanning through a few of these. If I didn't answer your question, please feel free to contact us directly. I'd be happy to have a more in-depth conversation. I'm just trying to touch on the top questions we're seeing here. Some questions around OSHA. They do have guidelines on this topic, so please check out their information. That a video series I sent was actually put out by them, and they are auditing different fabrication facilities, but this is all a very new emerging topic for our country specifically, so it's still all playing out right in front of us. All right. So far, there's no other bans in the world other than Australia, but I do think, with United States is discussing some in California, and we will see other countries start to take a handle on this over time. But that really wraps up our webinar for today. I hope you all found it helpful. I hope you all have some action items to go into the industry with, and we can all create some positive change together and hopefully even, help people with their own health impacts over time. So again, thanks for joining us. Feel free to use the survey that's going to pop up when we log out, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.